Yeah, just tell her, hey, we'll call you directly on standby. Thanks, Libby. Then we can get started.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's right about that time to start. I would like to welcome, if we have any guests joining us online, as well as our staff members and our commissioners here. So let's make this official. This special meeting of the Oakley Planning Commission is called to order on Tuesday, August 15 at 6:31 p.m. We'll begin with a roll call. Vice Chair Verduzco.
Here.
Commissioner Price.
Here.
Commissioners Ramirez and Creek are absent, and I am Chair Chuco are present. Vice Chair Verduzco, would you kindly lead us in Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country?
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on directly to public comments. This section of the meeting is to submit your speakers cards. At this point, I do not have any. We did, however, receive one comment online, which was already addressed by, by Mr. Rohani. And this would be entered into the record for this meeting as well. So now at this point, we will move on to the consent calendar. And let's see, are there any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as read?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Thank you, Vice Chair Verduzco. Do we have a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Here, approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, item 4.1, adoption of the State of California Density Bonus Law. Repeal local density bonus regulations and replace with adoption of the State Density Bonus Law by reference. Mr. Strela, would you please kindly address the commissioners?
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and member of the Planning Commission, and to those that may be listening to the stream. This item here is a request for the Planning Commission to consider a zoning text amendment to bring the City of Oakley's municipal code into compliance with the State of California Density Bonus Law. The request for the Planning Commission is to adopt a resolution that would recommend the City Council adopt this ordinance. The technical aspect of the zoning text amendment would be to repeal in its entirety the existing section of the municipal code, which is 9.1.412. That is located in the chapter 9.1, which is known as the zoning ordinance, and then replace that adoption with the state density bonus law by reference. If you look at the draft ordinance that is attached to your proposed resolution, you'll see that there's a bit more language in there than simply just referencing the state law. So there is still a little bit of meat to this ordinance. Originally, the City of Oakley's ordinance for density bonus law and incentives was adopted in 2010 through the adoption of Ordinance 11-10. That ordinance does have a section towards the end that is a no conflict with state law statement, and essentially says in the event that the state law and the city's ordinance are inconsistent, the state law would take precedent and it would supersede any of the inconsistencies. However, since 2010, although there have been updates to the state law, the city's ordinance has not been updated and instead has relied on that no conflict statement to process applications in compliance with state law. This all came about, what you see before you tonight, this idea mostly came about through a joint effort through what's known as C4. It's the Contra Costa County Collaborative. It's a group that is staffed by consultants from MIG, and it has voluntary participants from the various jurisdictions throughout the county, usually made up of community development staff or housing staff from the other jurisdictions. For the city of Oakley, myself, the planning manager, participates in these meetings. And recently it was requested that the consultants from C4 put together templates for the cities for this very item to move forward with updates to their ordinances so that all cities could be in compliance with state law and have some sort of consistent sort of ordinance for developers throughout the county, no matter which city they came to. They would have that consistency in place. Just a little bit of background on the state density bonus law. It was originally adopted in 1976. There are several requirements that apply to local jurisdictions. One obviously is to increase density, and then there are various things like reduction of development regulations and standards, and the requirement to develop certain incentives for developers. So as an example, a project may come forth for a density bonus, apply this law, and say they want a reduction in parking requirements, off-street parking requirements, or a reduction in setbacks from a building to a property line, or landscape percentage. Whatever it may be that will help that project offset the financial burden of supporting affordable rents or sell prices and get that project built. It applies to a growing number of households, seniors, special needs, veterans, et cetera. And as the law evolves, more different types of households would apply or apply to this law if needed. And since 2018, it's been updated 10 times. So you remember earlier I mentioned we haven't done any updates, but the law has. This will eliminate the need for us to go back and do any additional updates. Again, the proposed ordinance will repeal the existing local ordinance and replace it with the state density bonus law by reference. As the state legislation is amended, Oakley's ordinance will remain consistent and in compliance with state law. Staff will not need to come back to the Planning Commission and then the City Council and hold two different public hearings just to amend the text if the state law changes. And probably the most important aspect of this is this will be easier for staff to process applications that come forward from different developers. We will have, like I said earlier, a consistent communication for them, a consistent ordinance that other cities will have, and we won't have to point out areas where perhaps our ordinance is slightly inconsistent with the state code. They will just go straight to the state code. Quick analysis of this. Adopting this ordinance does do what we need, and it complies with the housing element that was recently adopted and certified by HCD. It removes the government constraints that may apply to typical market rate housing, and it eliminates the need, as stated previously, to continually update the zoning ordinance to stay in compliance with state law. And the action in the housing element specific to this is Action 1.6, Density Bonus Ordinance. Essentially what it said is to update the ordinance to be in compliance with state law. This is doing one better, is that it's making the ordinance exactly as it is in state law. Also, adoption of this ordinance would be compliant with the Oakley Strategic Plan 27+. It's consistent with the Community and Economic Development Goal. One of the objectives in that goal speaks to providing affordable housing to meet the regional housing needs allocation for Oakley. And obviously by having an updated code for density bonus and making that available to the development community, that should at least indirectly help us meet those numbers by making this that much easier to apply and be consistent with state law. This project, this action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. It falls under what's called the common sense exemption. It only establishes and clarifies administrative processes. It does not propose any physical development. And with that said, I will refrain from reading this, but this is verbatim the staff recommendation from the staff report. If any of the members of the commission would like to make a motion, we would recommend that, that this motion be made. That concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strelo. Appreciate it. Do commissioners have any questions at this point? No questions. Okay. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to kind of, again, reiterate. So are we consistent with other cities that you mentioned who belong to C4 in doing this bonus law?
Yeah, several other cities will be doing this as well. And we used a template provided by C4 for the actual ordinance.
Right.
So not only will all of these cities have their ordinance updated to be consistent with state law, but we may have very similar ordinances in doing that as well in each of our municipal codes.
Right. So we're essentially doing that, everything that other cities are doing in our county, correct?
Yeah, for those cities that choose to do that, it would be very
Right.
similar.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We're going to open the public hearing, and since we don't really have any comments who were submitted on this item, we're going to close it right away and move on to deliberation. Just to summarize, what was, essentially presented to us today is for our planning commission to make a recommendation to essentially adopt the proposed item in front of us. Would any of the planning commissioners would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Thank you, Vice Chair Verduzco. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you for the second. Commissioner Price, so moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. So the next item of business is reports, and I would like right now to hear any reports from our staff members. Mr. Smith, Mr. Strelo.
Yeah, thank you. No reports for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any reports from the planning commissioners? Commissioner Price, did you attend any of the meetings between now and?
The transplant meeting was canceled again.
Oh, it's canceled.
For lack of agenda items.
Gotcha. Thank you. Do we have any requests or future submissions on the next agenda? None. Okay, thank you so much. Well, thank you all. It's been a very nice, productive meeting, and we will adjourn it at 6:43 p.m.